Do you like magnetic planar like me? So if you like magnetic planar, let's just talk about magnetic planar headphone. And in particular, I have with me, I would like to talk about this new headphone of mine, which is TAKSTAR HF580. So TAKSTAR has been around for quite a while. And for this HF580, you can get it from this TAKSTAR official store, which is in AliExpress, as you can see here. And it is priced at 146 US dollar, close to 147 US dollar, really. What you're gonna get is that, of course, inside this box would be the headphone itself here, okay, and then simple affair of just a pair of pads, the velo pad already attached here, and also this cloth type pads. All right, so the first thing when I receive it, this HF580, right, the one that really, became apparent to me is that how heavy this thing is. All right, and one of the reason for that is that this is probably one of the heaviest headphone which I ever owned so far. The entirety of this HF580 is built on steel, okay? Not plastic, not aluminium, but solid steel. Okay, and now let's just talk about the physical aspect of it first, okay? As you can see here, the headband itself, right? It is like really wide now. One of the reasons is that the first time when it came, it wasn't this wide. So the good thing about this is that because it is also steel, I was able to stretch it like this with my hand, straight out of the box. And why am I showing you this? Why this is important? Because one of the key factor that could make or break for most headphone is that how comfortable are the clamp pressure. For example, if you are familiar with Sennheiser HD series, like this HD 600 here, this thing clamps really strong, okay? So while I really love this HD 600 or even 650, I always have issue with the clamping pressure. And it took me quite a while to stretch it like this permanently on some sort of box to get the clamp pressure, easy on my head, because my head is kind of a bit wide. So the good thing about this HF580 is that it was already so very easy to expand and it stays like that. You see here? Very comfortable despite the weight, okay? And look at the shell itself here, the driver box here. It is very thick. And looking at the other aspect of it, the pads here, let's talk about another very important one, okay, which also make and break for headphone, the pads. You see, this thing is detachable, very easy like this, kind of like require a bit of pressure to take it off. Okay, let me see on this side, right there. And you would notice that these two pads, one of them cloth envelope, have a look here. It's kind of like thin, right? Naturally, okay, by default. So one of the key things that I would recommend if you're getting HF580, these are one of the things that you should do. Okay, so inside this pad, you would notice that it has this, plastic plate, which is the one attached to the headphone itself. Okay, so obviously between these two, you're going to be using only one of them, right? You can't use both of them. So my recommendation is that take out one of the plate from this either pad, whichever that you are choosing, right? And take out this one also from the pad that you will be using. So match it like this. So what will happen is that both of these, you just put it back into the one that you're going to be using like this. Very easy. All right, done. And just before I put it back, you notice that what's the difference now? It became thicker, right? And why would I want to do that? And why would I recommend to do that? Two things. First, you notice my ear is kind of a bit flaring out like an elf. And then, so for comfort reason, I would prefer that my ear not to touch the driver. Okay. So by having this 1 mm of boost, right, from the pad itself, it's an easy solution without the need to buy any other different pads. Okay. And the next one is that most importantly is the effect that it has on sound stage. Okay. As with any open back type of headphone, all right, the further it is your eardrum from the driver, the impression of the soundstage gets improved or wider, more open. As simple as that. You see here, my HF580 comes with a very short cable. Originally, it wasn't that short, okay? HF580 comes with 3 meter length of cable. And this is what happened to the original cable. Yes, I cut it off. And why did I do that? Okay, two reasons. First, this HF580 only comes in 3.5 mm single-ended, or even this you have an adapter to put it to 6.3 mm. So as you would notice, if you're already familiar with my channel, I have a lot of dongle and DAC. Okay, I have so many of my DAC perform better on 4.4 mm balance. So I needed this HF580 to be able to play, to be used with 4.4 mm balance amp and DAC. Okay, so, and it is not detachable, unfortunately. It would have been perfect if this is detachable like some other headphone, but unfortunately no. So it is a fixed cable. Either you recable it or you re-terminate it like what I did. Okay, and this is a personal thing. Okay, not necessarily something that you must do, especially if you have only 3.5 mm single-ended or 6.3 mm, single-ended. Also, I need it to be shorter. You would notice that this is my desktop setup here, Burson Audio Playmate 2, right? It's just so close to me. I don't need 3 meter cable to attach to this. Just like many other magnetic planar, especially true for, headphones, it does scale really well, okay? With some of the dongles or DAC amp that you see here, it sounded the best when attached to this surprisingly powerful Sony PCM D100, and equally amazing when attached to this Burson Audio Playmate 2. And I need to remind you again, this thing is capable up to 3000 milliwatt of power at 16 ohm, okay? Crazy powerful. But both of them are super powerful, okay? And also, when it comes to dongle, even 2 VRMS of Ovidius B1 is more than enough already. Just like any magnetic planar, be it IEM, be it headphones or anything like that, scalability is a big factor to them. Okay, so which means that even if you can use it, already casually with weak sources like this, but because of the scaling ability of magnetic planar, the more power you push to it, the better it sounds. The first time when I listened to this, okay, I was already convinced that this is pretty much a neutral sort of sound tuning. Not exactly neutral, because if you talk about neutral, this is neutral. Sennheiser HD600, okay, a reference for neutral. So this is slightly just a bit colored. Perhaps I would say that the coloration evolved at around usually from lower mid-range to the bass region, which is kind of like enhanced a bit to add a bit of excitement, because this is flatter in comparison, okay? And when we talk about timbre itself, now this is very interesting as well and very important. It is near organic and mature, as I listed there. What does it mean? So if I were to do comparison with something which is more known to people, a bit more popular, like HiFiMan HE400 SE, right? I would even say that between HE400 SE and this HF580, this is definitely more organic, or in the simplest term, that this is warmer sounding as compared to the metallic sounding timbre of HiFiMan HE400 SE. One of the reasons that you want to have magnetic planar is because of the resolution, okay? It is analytical as it is resolving, okay? So the same can be expected of this HF580, depending on what type of partner you attach it to. For example, if you attach it to this Burson Audio Playmate 2 or even this Sony PCM D100 here, you're gonna get a lot of details, okay? As noted there, this is energetic yet mature sounding. So what does it mean? It means that while being exciting sounding, it does not sound overly euphonic. So if I were to draw comparison again with HiFiMan HE400 SE, because the nature of HiFiMan HE400 SE is a bit more brighter, and this is warmer, right? I would even say that this is less euphonic sounding compared to the Sundara or even HiFiMan HE400 SE. It's pretty much similar to this Fostex T40 RP Mark III, okay? So let's talk about the treble itself, balance tuning. So this is kind of a bit, there's a caveat here, Alright, the reason it is being marked as balance tuning because again, if I were to draw comparison with HiFiMan HE400 SE or even the Sundara, I would even say that straight out, the HiFiMan magnetic planar does seem to appear to have better extension. So which also means that they would appear brighter. And this is kind of a bit roll off with the extension of the treble, but it is not exactly a bad thing because sometimes, especially if you are like me, if you listen a lot to energetic music with lots of cymbals, with lot of emphasis on the upper frequency, it is a very good thing to have a warm sounding upper frequency like this HF580. So it never gets, I never get fatigued when I use this, listening to metal music, rock music, or any energetic music. But if I were to use something like HiFiMan HE400 SE, while I enjoy it a lot, I cannot bear to listen to it for more than 2 hours or even 1.5 hours. But this thing, I can literally listen to this for like 5 hours, 6 hours straight non-stop. Okay? So let's talk about the mid-range itself. As noted here, neutral mids with rich texture. I did mention earlier that there's a bit of coloration with the mid-range. So again, in tandem with the scheme of the overall sound, the warm effect start here at the mid-range. So when we talk about warm, the vocal itself, for example, like Diana Krall, contralto, or even Alison Krauss, soprano, which is typically Vicky, or baritone, it does sound a bit warm to my ear, pleasantly warm, smooth, and rich with the texture itself. So it is, despite not being transparent as how I'm hearing it from the Sennheiser HD600, it is the sort of sound which I consider as being really enjoyable. Okay, and the same goes for the instrument. While it does sound natural, but definitely I would still consider it being as slightly colored in a pleasant way. Okay, so now let's talk about the lower frequency. Well balanced, rich texture. And this is one area which I really love. Alright, second only to Fostech T40 RP Mark III. The best presentation of this HF580 is definitely, I would even dare say, better than this HiFiMan Sundara or even HE400 SE, because the way it balanced the mid bass and the sub bass, right? The portion of mid bass and sub bass is very well defined. They do not compete with each other. I was able to hear the rumble, the punch, and the authority of the mid bass, and yet at the same time, I am still hearing the smooth decay of the sub bass. Okay, so it does not sound roll off or anything like that. About the only headphone which can compete, which does it better, is of course still this Fostech T40 RP Mark III. But then again, we are talking about this Fostech also sound a bit more bassier, meaning that this is even more colored than this. So if you want the same sort of, deep sounding bass resolution from your magnetic planar, HF580 has it. It is not as colored as this Fostech T40 RP Mark III. I can really enjoy both of them equally. Okay, so now let's talk about soundstage. Remember I mentioned to you earlier what you should do with the pads here, all right? So the difference is that the soundstage depends a lot on what type of pad you use. Okay, so for example, I prefer to use this Valor pad because one of the reason is that it does contain a bit more of sound from escaping. So the imaging is sharper, but also at the same time, right, the soundstage kind of a bit not as open sounding as when using this cloth pad. But eventually I decided that I prefer to use this because I appreciate the isolation better than the openness, really total openness of this. It is still sounding open, but remember that I added the length of the plate here. So there's a distance of this pad to the driver itself. Now what I'm hearing is that with this kind of simple adjustment, it is wide and open sounding. So definitely as per expected, like most open back headphone like this, HD600 or even the Sundara, or except for this T40 RP Mark III, this does not sound very wide because it is closed back. Okay, so it is very simple affair of how you choose your ear pad, right? Choose the wrong ear pad and you lose soundstage, as simple as that. All in all, I would say that in conclusion, with the kind of awareness or growing interest into magnetic planar nowadays, it is definitely very positive to see that we have a bit more option as compared to like even 5 years ago or even 10 years ago, where the options are so very limited. So when I see that TAKSTAR offered HF580 at a bargain price of just 147 US dollar, I did not hesitate, to get it one for myself and to try it. And I must say that I am happy with the result. Okay, this headphone is super comfortable. Once you tune the headband, it does sound excellent, all right, for the price asking, and it provides a good alternative to the sound flavoring, to the sound preference. For example, if you ever find that Hi-Fi Man sort of magnetic planar sound kind of a bit bright or even let's say metallic sounding, right? You can either get this HF580 or you can get this Fostech T40 RP Mark III. So it is always good to have options. And going forward, I hope to see that even more, magnetic planar being released into the market. And hopefully, TAKSTAR will be watching this and then please do another version with detachable cable. That would be perfect.